And we've always talked about INEC's preparation when it comes to elections. This is not the first time INEC has gone to Bayelsa, knowing that it has a peculiar environment in that particular state. How come that usually we still see that INEC would seem to have, relaxed some of these preparations when it comes to provision of materials to some of these areas, like the riverine areas of Bayelsa and some other places? Is INEC prepared to go into this election knowing full well that it might also take them into the ninth?
We are aware of all the difficulties we came across, especially when you talk about Bayelsa. It is the smallest political constituency we have in the country, but I want to assure you it's the most difficult. It's about 90% aquatic, with a lot of militancy. And I want to assure you that even to get a boat onto one of those rivers will require, they don't even allow you to bring your boats. You have to require on their boats. So we are even using more security men here that we would even have used in the state with a fire voting figure. What happened in southern Niger, we looked at critically and then we changed tactics. What we did was now to change the headquarters of that local government from the riverine area now to the terrestrial area. So the operation is going to take place from land now rather than from the river where we don't really have access.
So in other words, the electorates are going to come out of wherever they are to a particular place for this election?
They are still voting in their
constituencies.
But our coordination, compilation, and of course will take place on land now rather than going down on water. We discussed this even with the candidates themselves. They agreed. We discussed with the civil society organizations. We discussed even with security apparatus, and we are all on the same page.
Talking about the team that will be going for this particular election, is it the same team that conducted the first or the last election, or you have a new team going for this?
Well, I don't know what you call about him. Just realize that it's about 26%.
Let me break it down, because some of the key players of this particular election had asked that those who came for this election be swapped with new faces, new names, new individuals, new officials, as well as even security operatives to come to Bayelsa. They believe that some would have been compromised.
Luckily, in a place like
I'm sure you heard that call.
In fact, just so many allegations, counter allegations. There will be demands, counter demands, so many things. But I think the commission is so focused on its operation. We cannot allow people to be dictating to us what to do. It's the process that is important to us. We've had allegations even against our resident electoral commissioner, baseless allegations. We did not even know the person who made the allegation.
You investigated it and found it was baseless.
In fact, the man who called himself SPO, we didn't even know who was so called. There have been against the police and so many, but even it depends on who is talking. You will hear some beating the drums, praising you, some condemning you too, but it's all, most of them are ploys to really divert your attention from doing the right thing. But as far as the commission is concerned, we are so sure, number one, the people of Bayelsa will be the ones that will determine their governor. No other factor will.
Did you get any report from any members of staff of INEC of some form of attempt to induce them with monies or any other favors?
Honestly, none that I know about. But there are so much counter allegations of money from both sides, especially APC and PDP, inducement by APC somewhere, inducement by PDP somewhere. These are just things that are trying to distract us. But I want to assure you that we will not tell you at our strategies too. If there are issues like that, we will get to know.
Do you think your strategy will work this time?
I'm so sure it will work. As I said, the election will have been concluded if not for the fact that our elections are getting better. Competitions are getting keener.
I was just going to ask you about that. Is INEC really prepared to conduct, elections that will end in one day now? Because this, whether or not INEC likes it, it does raise questions about INEC's capability in Kogi. If you say that the terrain in Bayelsa is difficult, although it's small, what about Kogi? Is the terrain in Kogi, was it difficult or is it difficult as well?
No. The issue is that the keenness of the election itself. Number one, you will see that in Kogi, we had 97% completion of election, and only 3% will even determine what the winner will be. We have to go through that process. The keener an election now, the longer it's likely to be.
So is INEC really prepared for this? Because if you are having issues as an organization, you know, conducting elections conclusively in one state, what will happen in a general election?
It's not even, you can't prepare for the way the people would react to election. When you have election where you have about 97% completion and only 3% is necessary to conclude it, you will discover that it's going to be longer naturally. And some other factors have to come in. You would see that there are some, just like we said, we'll now have to look at those people that don't vote. You can't go back to such places with a ballot paper that has been contaminated or compromised. You have to isolate such places that will determine the winner. And of course, you have to do it with fresh materials.
No, what I'm saying is, in the very first instance, there need not have been 3% of the population that did not get to vote. If we're conducting elections in one state and INEC has conducted elections in an entire country at the same time, there is no question why INEC, or there's no reason why INEC shouldn't be able to do it in one state at once.
Don't forget that I told you that these two states have something, they have one thing in common: violence. In Southern Niger, militancy. In Kogi, there was this issue of this Fulani herdsmen that went to attack probably a particular community. About 8 days to the election, the people were very skeptical.
But these things did not just spring up.
They came about 8 days to that election. The people were even, they were not eager to come out unless they had adequate election.
What I'm saying is, sorry to interrupt you.
Okay.
Kogi State has had that history.
Yes.
Bayelsa State has also had that history.
Yes.
So these are not things that are new. They didn't just spring up. Didn't INEC prepare for this, you know?
I'm telling you, it is the keenness of the election. In fact, if you will see some elections too, we prepare for a second ballot. There are some elections which the Constitution even prescribes a second ballot if there is keenness. Especially in gubernatorial, even presidential. If there has been a keenness in the presidential, there will have been a runoff between the two candidates. The keener the election, the longer it's likely to be.
So, in Southern Niger, how many people have collected the PVCs?
In Southern Niger, well, I can't give you a figure offhand, but I can assure you that in Southern Niger, what we're expecting there is about 120,000 registered voters.
So, is INEC...
And about more than 80% of those people have collected the original PVC and, of course, the PVC arising from continuous voters registration. In fact, we even went an extra mile by saying that for these particular places that remain, not Southern Niger alone, continue distributing for people that come along to...
So, is INEC preparing for 120,000 people?
We are preparing for 150,000 people because there are even 30-something thousand in other places.
Why 150,000?
That was the only prominent place where there was violence. There are pockets of violence in some other places, and the election did not take place in those places too.
So, okay, but for Southern Niger, it's about 120,000.
It's about 120,000.
That's what that's the population.
That's the voting population.
Voting population.
We cannot predict the number that will come out.
No, but
we are prepared for the maximum.
But you should have an idea of those who have collected the PVCs. Or is INEC preparing for 120? If 80% have collected PVCs, it means, are you implying that people can vote without a permanent voter card?
That's exactly what we have done. But I'm sure we will not deploy the 120. You just asked the question. We will not deploy the full number. We will deploy according to the... I just told you that nobody can jump into a ballot box now without going through the card reader.
Yeah, so shouldn't INEC be preparing for those who have collected the PVCs?
It's a continuous
not the voting
exercise. Might be as of last week, about 10 other people too could have collected. Don't forget that we have a lot of these PVCs that have not been collected. In the worst case scenario, it's always better to prepare for the maximum rather than have a shortage when there's demand for it.
I was just going to ask you though, how does INEC intend to continue to distribute the PVC, before another general election comes up?
Yes, this particular commission is a pity the Honorable Chairman hasn't had time, since we came in about 8 weeks ago, to really meet with the public and the media. I want to assure you, even between now and the next 2 months and 20 days, we have about 80 different by-elections to conduct. Court-ordered elections. We still have some other vacancies, like that, like people who have resigned, some have become ministers, some have been elevated to some other posts and vacancies. So we have about 80 in the next less than 90 days to conduct. So this has really occupied our mind. But we, as a commission, have decided that at least we must have a specified time by which the last permanent voter's card is distributed. There's a body working on it, a formula which we are going to use, whether it even means contacting these people or phone, because we have their phone number or some of these things, but we are given a deadline, probably about 12 months or so. We'll be definite about it when the last voter's card in Nigeria should be distributed, and it should not be an issue that, some people, we still have voter's card uncollected. It's one of the first-line problems that we intend to tackle.
All right, then, Mr. Solomon Shoyebezi, National Commissioner in charge of Media and Communication for INEC. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll be back in a moment. We'll have one more matter in focus here today, so don't go away.